National University, Sudan, Faculty of Administrative Science. Hello dear students, welcome to another lecture in our microeconomics course. In the previous lecture, we discussed the basic characteristics of monopoly, the demand curve facing a monopolist, and the relationship between average revenue and marginal revenue. In today's lecture, we will continue our discussion of monopoly by focusing on two very important topics. First, price discrimination, and second, monopoly efficiency loss and deadweight loss. These topics will help us understand not only how a monopolist may charge different prices for the same product, but also why monopoly may lead to a loss of economic efficiency compared to with perfect competition. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to define price discrimination, explain the conditions necessary for price discrimination, distinguish between first degree, second degree, and third degree price discrimination, explain why monopoly is generally allocatively inefficient, and understand the relationship between monopoly output, price, marginal revenue, and marginal cost. Let us start by price. What do we mean by price discrimination? What do we mean by price discrimination? Price discrimination occurs when a monopolist charges different prices to different consumers for the same product, where these prices differences are not based on differences in production cost. This final part of the definition is very important. The firm may charge different consumers different prices, but these differences are not explained by the fact that one product costs more to produce than another. Instead, the price difference is related to differences among consumers, particularly their willingness to pay. For example, imagine that two consumers are purchasing the same product. If one consumer is willing to pay a higher price than the other, a firm with sufficient market power may attempt to charge the two consumers different prices. This is the basic idea of price discrimination. However, not every firm can practice price discrimination successfully. There are several important conditions. Condition number one, market power. First, the firm must have market power to influence prices. A firm operating under perfect competition generally cannot charge different prices in this way because it's a price taker. The monopolist, however, has market power and therefore has greater ability to influence the price charged to consumers. Condition number two is that the firm must be able to separate consumers into different groups according to their willingness to pay. This means the firm needs some methods of identifying differences between groups of consumers. For example, consumers may be classified into groups such as students, children, or seniors. Different groups may have different willingness or ability to pay. Condition number three, ability to prevent resale. The third condition is the ability to prevent resale between consumers. Why is this important? Suppose one group can buy the product at a lower price and then resell it to another group that faces a higher price. In this situation, the firm's price discrimination policy would become difficult to maintain. Therefore, the firm usually needs to prevent consumers who receive the product at a lower price from reselling it to consumers who are expected to pay a higher price. So to summarize, successful price discrimination generally requires market power, the ability to separate consumers according to willingness to pay, and the ability to prevent resale between consumers. Let us come to types of price discrimination. Now that we understand the meaning of price discrimination, let us discuss its three main types. These are first degree, second degree, third degree price discriminations. So, in the first degree price discrimination, the firm charges each consumer the maximum price that he or she is willing to pay. In other words, different consumers may pay different prices depending on their individual willingness to pay. The important idea here is that the firm attempts to obtain the maximum possible price from each individual consumer. Suppose consumer A is willing to pay a higher price for a product than consumer B. Under first degree price discrimination, the firm attempts to charge consumer A the maximum amount that consumer A is willing to pay, while charging consumer B a different price based on consumer B's maximum willing to pay. Therefore, the price may vary from one consumer to another. The central concept here is each consumer is charged according to his or her maximum willingness to pay. Second degree price discrimination. Here, the price varies according to the quantity purchased or according to the product version selected by the consumer. A good example given in our lecture is bulk discounts. For instance, a consumer buying a larger quantity may receive a lower price per unit than a consumer buying a small quantity. So the price structure depends on how much the consumer purchases. The consumer may choose from different pricing options. Therefore, unlike first degree discrimination, where the firm attempts to charge each individual according to his or her maximum willingness to pay, second degree discrimination is connected with different quantities or versions of the product. The important point to remember is price changes according to quantity purchased or product version. Third degree price discrimination. The third type is third degree price discrimination. In this case, the firm charges different prices to different groups of consumers. So for example, let us take students, children, and seniors. The firm separates consumers into identifiable groups and charges different prices to those groups. Therefore, the central idea is not that every individual receives a separate price. Instead, consumers are divided into groups, and different groups face different prices. So let us summarize the three types one more time. First degree, each consumer is charged the maximum price that he or she is willing to pay. Second degree, the price varies according to the quantity purchased or the product version, such as bulk discounts. Third degree, different prices are charged to different groups of consumers, such as students, children, or seniors. Please remember these differences carefully because students sometimes confuse second degree and third degree price discrimination. The easiest way to distinguish them is if the difference is related to quantity or product version, think about second degree discrimination. If the difference is related to different groups of consumers, think about third degree discrimination. Monopoly efficiency loss. Now, dear students, we move to the second major topic of today's lecture, monopoly efficiency loss. This topic is concerned with the consequences of monopoly for the allocation of resources and overall economic welfare. A monopoly is generally described as allocatively inefficient. Why? Because the monopolist restricts output and charges a higher price than would occur under perfect competition. Let us explain this step by step. Under monopoly, the firm chooses its output according to the profit maximization condition. Let me show you this again using the laser pen. We have this, the price, and this is the quantity, and this is the demand curve. At the same time, it is average revenue curve. We can choose another color. This is the marginal revenue curve. Let us do it up to here. And then let us take another color. Let me select this yellow one, but the yellow is not so clear. Let me take another one, for example, the black one. So we have, this is the marginal cost curve. And let me take the green or the purple. This is the intersection point between the marginal revenue and marginal cost. So this is the monopolist quantity. This is the monopolist quantity. And then we will move up to the demand curve in order to determine the price or the monopolist price. So this is the monopolist price. So that is marginal revenue equals marginal cost. This condition determines the output level chosen by the monopolist. After determining the output where marginal revenue equal marginal cost, the monopolist uses the demand curve, which is also the average revenue curve, to determine the price. So the process is, first, find the quantity where marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Second, move from the quantity to the demand or the average revenue curve. Third, determine the corresponding price. Under monopoly, the price is usually greater than the marginal cost, because this is, let me select the another color, maybe the green color. Where is this? Okay, this is the marginal cost curve. Here is, I don't know why it has disappeared, but this is the marginal cost and this is the price. The price is larger than the marginal cost. So this relationship is very important. Under perfect competition, the price is equal to marginal cost at the competitive equilibrium. But under monopoly, the firm generally produces less output and charges a higher price. Therefore, monopoly output is lower and monopoly price is higher. Because output is lower and price is higher, the allocation of resources is generally not considered allocatively efficient. And this is why monopoly can create an efficiency loss. So remember that the key relationship under monopoly, marginal revenue equal marginal cost determines the output. Price is obtained from the demand or average revenue curve. Usually price is larger than marginal cost, and compared with perfect competition, output is lower and price is higher. Let me show you how. I don't know why the leather disappears all the time. So now you understand. Let me show you this in a graphical explanation. When you look at the graph, where is this leather pointer? It disappears again. Look at the graph illustrating monopoly efficiency loss. The most important task is to understand the difference between monopoly outcome and socially efficient outcome. Under monopoly, the firm selects its quantity at here, where, sorry, here, marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. Okay, marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So this is a monopoly quantity, and this is, then we go up in order to find the price here. This is the price. Okay, this is the price. So this is the average total cost. This is the marginal cost. Here is the marginal cost. The marginal cost is less than the monopoly price, and the original price should be here, PC. So this gives us the monopoly quantity. From this quantity we move upward to the demand curve, as I told you before, to the demand curve up to here. This is what we known as deadweight loss. The deadweight loss is one of the most important consequences of monopoly inefficiency. The basic reason for deadweight loss is that the monopolist produces less than socially efficient level of output. So he should produce this one, QC. This is the efficiency or the society required quantity, and this is the monopoly quantity. So this should be the price here. This should be the market price, but the monopoly charges extra price, PM. So this should be the quantity, but he produces this. So there is a deadweight loss. This is the orange area is called the deadweight loss. Why? The basic reason for deadweight loss is that the monopolist produces less than the socially efficient level of output. As a result, some transactions that could provide benefits to both buyers and sellers do not take place. Let us think about this carefully. There may be units of product that consumers value enough to purchase, and that could be produced at cost that makes production worthwhile. However, because the monopolists restrict output, these transactions do not occur. The result is a loss of potential economic welfare. This lost welfare is called deadweight loss. Therefore, the deadweight loss represents a loss of total economic welfare. The key point from this lecture can be summarized as follows. Monopoly leads to a higher price. This is the price, and this is a socially accepted price. The red one is the price charged by the monopoly, and the PC, the blue price, is the price that should be accepted by the society. Monopoly leads to lower output. This is the output that is produced by the monopoly, and this is the socially accepted output. So the price is greater than marginal cost. This is the marginal cost, and the price is greater than the marginal cost. And these conditions contribute to allocative inefficiency. Why? Because there is an economic welfare that is not met. Let us express this as a chain. Monopoly means higher price plus lower output, and this price is larger than marginal cost. So this leads to allocative inefficiency plus deadweight loss. So this is the key idea, is that because the monopolist produces less than the socially efficient quantity, some mutually beneficial transactions do not take place. Therefore, society loses part of the potential welfare that could otherwise have been created. So deadweight loss, as I told you that when we look at the graph related to deadweight loss, we said that the important comparison between the quantity produced under monopoly and socially efficient level of output. The monopolist chooses output according to marginal revenue equal marginal cost. So This results in lower quantity than the efficient level described in the lecture. Because the monopoly quantity is lower, some transactions between the monopoly quantity and the socially efficient quantity do not occur. These are the transactions associated with the loss of economic welfare. Let me explain it again here. Okay, so this is price and this is quantity, and this is the demand curve. At the same time, it is average revenue demand. So let me select another color. Let us select the black. This is the marginal revenue curve. And let me select yellow in order to do the marginal cost curve. So actually this is the amount produced by the monopolist. So this is QM up to here. This is price M. But the monopolist should produce here. Let me do it by another color, maybe the blue one. He should produce this amount. This is the Q that is socially efficient, and this should be the price. So, and this is the marginal cost. Okay, so this area is a deadweight loss. This area is a deadweight loss. So this explanation connects the graph directly with the main economic concept. Once again, lower monopoly output leads to foregone transactions. Foregone transactions create a loss of economic welfare, and this welfare loss is called deadweight loss. You can see it again here. It's very clear here. Very clear. Please, my students, review these important concepts through solving these true-false questions and upload it to my Telegram page. Let me summarize. We have now reached to the end of today's lecture. We have discussed price discrimination and the ability of the monopoly to separate consumers and offer different prices according to their willingness or according to the quantities or whatever is, or different prices are charged to different groups of consumers. We have also discussed monopoly efficiency loss and the potential allocative inefficiency. Finally, we discussed deadweight loss because the monopolist produces less than socially efficient level of output. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope this lecture has helped you understand these important concepts in microeconomics. Please revise the lecture carefully and prepare for the review questions. I wish you every success in your studies.